We're going to do a summary from yesterday, a quick summary. We had a few questions that we asked. It says the snake, he basically convinced Chava to eat from the tree. And he told him, if you eat from the tree, your eyes will be opened up. You're going to understand das, to understand good and bad, like Hashem. And then we saw at the end that it's actually true. That Hashem said, now you know between good and bad. And you're like one like me. So, how did the snake know something that Adam Rishon didn't know? If Adam Rishon was such a high level, the snake knew something more than him, so to speak, that only Hashem knew. Okay, that's question number one. And why was it so bad that his eyes should be opened up, that he should know good and bad? Okay, that was the whole discussion that we spoke about. Okay, and we basically went through a long discussion on how to answer that. We explained that when Hashem knows good and bad, it's in a way of a transcending light, and therefore the bad doesn't affect him, so to speak. But when man knows good and bad, it's always inside of his own kalim, his brain, his heart. And since the good and bad are inside his kalim, therefore the bad actually affects man and actually causes him a form of destruction. And the ultimate destruction was that it brought death, not only into this world, but into all the worlds, higher worlds and all the lower worlds. It brought death. That's why God said, don't eat from the tree because you're going to die. But the snake said, God doesn't want you from it because he doesn't want you to be like him, to know good and bad. And then he convinced them to eat from it, okay? So that's how we explained that when man ate good and bad, the good and bad got mixed inside of him and it got mixed in all the worlds together, so it caused something very negative. But Hashem, it didn't get mixed in him, and it didn't affect him in any way because it's in an or makif, it's in a transcending way. That's basically what we said, a lot of in between details there. Okay? So now, we said also that why did Hashem send Adam Rishon out of the Gan Eden after he ate from the tree of knowledge? God said, I'm worried that he's going to eat from the tree of life now. So we explained that if he eats from the tree of life, after he eats from the tree of knowledge, then the bad that he ate from is going to live forever. And since the bad's going to live forever, God didn't want that to ever be a possibility, because eventually the bad's going to die, and then we're going to live forever. And Tchiyat Metim is the time where we live forever. And that's what it says over here. It says in the future time, Bala Mav Lenetzach, death will be swallowed from the earth. Vet Ruach Atuma Avir, and the spirit of impurity are removed from the earth. That's specifically talking about the times of Mashiach. That all of the Gvurat Kashot, all of the strong difficulties will be refined. And all of these things came because Adam ate from the tree Etzadas. Okay, so the whole concept of the Torah is to refine the original sin of Adam Rishon, that ate from the tree of knowledge, good and bad. Everything is for that. Every time you're learning halacha, you're refining it. Every time you're praying, you're refining it. The whole thing is getting to that place of back to where you originally started from, where you knew clearly what good is. Today it's very confusing. People don't know what good is. People don't know what bad is. You go to every country, they're going to have a different reason, or every person is going to have a different thing to say about it, and everyone thinks they're for sure right. So how do you know what's for sure right? The Torah is going to tell you what's really good and what's really bad. Okay? So the whole Torah is to muvara, to refine the good from the bad, and the Eitzadas. As it says, don't eat blood, don't eat fat, don't wear shatnez. Okay, because it says in the pasuk, with chokhmah you will refine. What does that mean? The chokhmah is the Torah. Only through Torah you'll be able to know exactly what good and bad is. And you follow that with the proper guidance, you'll eventually clear out all the good and bad, and then you can get to the Chaim afterwards. V'agam shene'emar, even though it says in the pasuk, if you do a lot of sins, what does it do to Hashem? So what does that mean? The tree of life itself, before they ate from the tree of knowledge, lo kashar ya'achol me'etz chaim lachash sheta'am me'etz hadas she'az adra b'ratzon ha'ma'atzil leva'er hara mikol v'kol. So basically the concept is like this. Now that Adam ate from the tree of knowledge, now Hashem wants us to completely separate the good and bad, and then afterwards be able to taste from the tree of knowledge, from the tree of life. As it says, a person has two choices. Everything he does, it comes down to two different things. You can choose the good or choose the bad. In any circumstance, sometimes it's difficult to know what's good and what's bad, because it gets confusing. And bad looks like good and good looks like bad. But the whole thing is that to choose good. So the whole thing of all the mitzvahs is only to metaken the sin of Adam Arishon in the Eitz Hadas Tovera. But if he didn't eat from the Eitz Hadas, and then the pasuk says, if you're righteous, what did you give him? And if you sinned, what did you do to him? What does that mean? That's talking about the level of the source of the Etz Chaim. So at that level, it seems like it doesn't matter, because the mitzvahs are here to refine the good and the bad because of the sin of Adam Rishon. Okay, so that's what it says in Sfarim, that when Mashiach comes, the mitzvahs will be batal. It says they're going to be nullified. What does it mean? We're still going to do them, what do you mean to nullified? So the explanation is that the reason why we do them now is mainly to separate the good and bad, to refine us. That's going to be nullified. But the mitzvahs as a form of unification with Hashem, that's going to be the days of Mashiach, is going to be purely that eventually, once all the bad is removed. And that's what it says, V'ata pen nishlach yado v'lakach gam etz hachaim v'achal v'chai la'olam. It said, lest he put his hand and took from the tree of life and live forever. What does that mean? V'ata, and now, means specifically after he ate from the tree of knowledge, and therefore the bad was mixed with the good. Now we're worried he's going to eat from the tree of life, and the bad is going to have life force and existence forever if he ate from the tree of life. Okay, so seemingly you would think that now we ate from the tree of knowledge, we had the question above, now you could fix it, eat from the tree of life. You're going to die, now you're going to live forever. So we explain now really that if you did that, then the bad would exist forever. So it would be completely opposite of the goal here. Even though he would take away death from the world and he would live forever, nonetheless the bad inside of him would stay in him without getting fixed or without getting refined, and would damage man more. And it'll be really bad for man. Okay, that's basically that question. Now, to explain this a little bit more, in the Zohar, it explains this in a very shortened way. Vahu gabe uvda de Rabbi Acha. It's the story of Rabbi Acha. Mikfar Tarsha. He's in the Kfar, the farm, the what? The village of Tarsha. Shaita magefa be'ir. There was a magefa in the ear. They had a plague in the city. Okay. And he did some type of incense offering, and then through the incense he atoned for the place, and then the plague stopped. What's it? No mass. Just did it with the Torat. Okay, now there's such a thing today to do. Talk about it soon. So they said that he didn't do good. דאגם שבוודאי נתכפר על ידי עובדה זאת ותייצר מגפה, אבל מכל מקום עלמא בחיובה ישתכח. He said, nonetheless, even though we atoned for everyone by doing this Maaseh Torah, but everyone was still obligated and they didn't do tshuva. So even though he took it away, but people didn't do any tshuva. So it's a similar type of thing. The evil is still existing even though you fixed the death from the plague. Okay? עניין הוא להיות יודע כי הטעם של כתוב תצאת מגפה כמו בארון על ידי המחתה שעמד בין המתים ובין החיים ותרתה המגפה. So we see also in the Parasha with Nadav and Avihu, they died and then afterwards people were dying from the Megefa, and then Aaron was able to stop it through Torat also. Aaron and Cohen, the same thing.
Stop what?
The plague. I think it said 24,000. Yeah, it was between living and dead. היינו לפי שבקטורת יש העלת ניצוצות התוהו שנפלו ביוד א' arurim de klipa. Okay, so basically it says like this: the Torat has the ability to elevate the sparks of tohu that fell in the 10 arurim of klipa. That fell because the Eitz Adas Tovara Sheba Nachash al Chava. The Nachash came on Chava. Shamavet Nimshach Misham. The death came from there. As it say, Raglea Yodod Mavet, Nikra Arur. It's called cursed. Right? Now Chaim, Chaim at the Tov at the Mavet Torah. So when the Torat comes and you elevate up these sparks, you're changing the Arur to Baruch, changing the cursed to blessed, from bad to good. Okay, so basically the Torat, as explained in Svarim, since it has 11, so Kedusha has 10, right? And then Klipa has 11. Because Klipa has the 10 plus the I of the 10. It's all about the self in Klipa. And Kedusha is all about Bittul, to the higher realms. So in Kedusha you have 10, and in Klipa you have 11. So the Torat is the thing inside of Kedusha that you have 11 for. So it's able to make a tikkun on the 11 of the klipa. So through the Torat, you're able to take something that's not kosher and make it kosher, so to speak. That's the Torat has the power to do that. Okay, so it's able to transform the actual bad itself into good. דהיינו שהרע עצמו נעשה טוב, שנקרא סם חיים, הפך סם המוות.
You said something about the yod. You said it very quickly.
Yeah, so in Kedusha you have 10 spheros, yod. And in Kalipa you have 11. Means you have the same 10 in corresponding to it. And then you have another one above it, which is the existence of itself.
So something about in the future.
What is it?
Somewhere.
I remember. Okay, so it says, Yasimu Torat ba'pecha lamtika dina kashe. You should make Torat in your nose to metaken, to fix the strong judgment b'shorsho mimavet l'chaim. Alkten b'Torat davka te'etzer makava. So therefore, Torat itself will stop the plague. Even though the Torat has the ability to turn over death to life, this is the concept of taking the Etz Chaim and fixing the Etz Das. Eating from the tree of life after eating from the tree of death, the tree of knowledge. Okay, b'achilat adam Etz Chaim la'achar shachal Etz Das shagam hara yichyev lo yamut. Even though that evil will live and not die, but you didn't fix the bad itself. The bad stays in the same place of sin that it started with, so you never fixed the bad, you just stopped the death, but now the bad is staying alive. The people in the town, they did the Torah, but no one did tshuva. And then the bad got mixed in the good, and everyone still stood in, was chayav, because they didn't do tshuva. Okay, so they were in the Etz Das, just the Torat that brought from the Etz Chaim to stop the death. As it says, V'yoruhu Hashem etz v'ishtach el hamayim v'imtutu hamayim. It's later on in the Chumash. It says Hashem threw a tree into the waters. They went to the waters were very bitter. So they said Hashem's going to tell them what to do. Hashem told them to take the tree, throw it into the water until it gets sweet. What is the bitter waters? Those are the Gvurot Kashot of the 11 curses. Okay? Like the bitter waters of a sota, the same Bechina. That makes your stomach explode. Okay?
What are the 11 curses?
It's a concept, and it means like the 11 on the side of Klipa.
Okay.
So through throwing this tree from the Etz Chaim, that's higher than the Etz Das Tovara, okay, because in the Etz Chaim there's no evil, therefore the waters get sweet, and the bitterness turns into sweetness. But the essence of the water didn't turn into sweetness. You just added something in that because of that it became sweet, but the water itself and its essence didn't turn sweet. And as opposed to what's going to be when Mashiach comes, it says, the spirit of Tuma I will take away from the earth. So he explains, Yevuar kol hara v'lo yish'ar mimenu klum. There's not going to be anything remaining. Hikol ya'afchu latov. Everything's going to turn to good. V'anishar shelo ya'afchu l'kedusha yevuar legamrei. Whatever is not going to transform to good will be completely destroyed. And that is through the birurim we're doing now in Torah and mitzvahs to turn over darkness into light, into bitterness into sweetness, until all of the zdonot, which means a person did something on purpose, sins on purpose, until they turn into schuyot, until they turn into merits. The world will not be in a state of chiyuv, in a state of being obligated, or in a state of sin at all. And that's what's going to be Mashiach comes. That's what should have been done in the city. Everyone should do tshuva and to burn up the bad, and that the world wouldn't be found in a state of chiyuv. But through the Torat, without tshuva, even though that we stopped the magefa, they didn't do right, because the people over there were still in a state of chiyuv. And it has an everlasting until, as we explained. So the bad would have an everlasting existence, even if God takes away the bad from the earth, and would stay forever. So the good, so whatever came good wasn't good in compared to the bad that came with it. Because the fact that the bad could have had an existence forever is against God's will at the end of the day. Okay, and now it says, "Vayisholcheu Hashem Elokim migan Eden lavodat adama." Okay, we're on paragraph Zion, page 62. It says Hashem sent out Adam from Gan Eden to work the land in which He took him from there. In order to fix the concern that maybe he's going to put his hand and then eat from the tree of life, God had to send him out from Gan Eden, from the land in which He took from there, for the reason of to work it. Okay, it's a very big question. Very nice. Hashem sent him from Gan Eden. That's good. Now he's not going to be able to eat from the tree because he's not in Gan Eden anymore. Yeah. So what? But why did Hashem afterwards command him to work the land? For whatever reason, he needs to work the land. What does it have to do with this? God said, now he can't eat from the tree of life. So let's get him out of Gan Eden. Now he's saying, get out of Gan Eden and make him work the land. So why do you have to go work the land afterwards? So let's see, yeah.
Wait, why wasn't it coming from this Chaim? Because he said to wait till Shabbos and didn't.
Yeah, but now that he eats a das, he cannot eat from it. So that God said, you now have to leave Gan Eden. And now once you left, and He says, you have to leave Gan Eden, but you also have to work the land now. What's going on? Why do you have to work the land? What's the connection? You want to stay in the mountains, you know? You don't have to work the land. So He says, if you're going to say that maybe the earth needs to be fixed and man takes from the earth, therefore man has to work the earth because he took from there. So then, if that's the case, why did Hashem put him first in Gan Eden to work the land there? Gan Eden to work in Gan Eden, but He didn't command him to work the land in Gan Eden. Let's see. So to explain, so what's the answer like this? The avodat adama hu inin bechinat birurim derapach nitzotzos. Working the land is the refining of the 288 sparks. What is it? that fell from the klipas to refine them and to fix them, to refine them and to separate the good from the bad so much until they're completely fixed from the sin of the Eitz Hadas Tovra, that the bad got mixed with the good. Okay, so Adam had the way to fix the sin of the tree of knowledge, that once he sinned in the tree of knowledge, therefore the sparks now fell into the olam, and to fix it he had to work the land, which represented completely refining the good from the bad until he gets back to the state before the sin. So this is why he's talking about physical land, because the physical land is something that's very hard. You have to do a lot of things to work the land. You got to do charisha and then zriya and all the 39 melachas in order to make the food proper that grow from the earth. That each one is just the inyan of refining and separating the bad from the good. Okay, you have 10 different levels to make bread. Just to make bread, you have to do so many things to make bread. So that was the thing that we had to do to refine the good from the bad.
39, right? From planting the seed to...
Well, I think you're doing all the 39 malachas, but there's 10 steps. I said there's 10 steps to make bread.
From the...
Planting, sowing, all stuff. Now charisha, what does charisha do? Charisha is, how do you say, plowing? It's when you soften the earth.
Winnowing.
It is winnowing, softening the earth, right? Lafrid et afar kasher l'farish yikum l'tzmicha. You're basically separating the hard earth in order that it should be ready for tzmicha. V'gam azriya inin biur, and so too the zriya. Okay, zriya is planting. It's also a biur. What does that mean? Inin biur liot rikavon apsot ba'aretz. The seed has to rot in the ground, and the ruchnius of the ground will be able to sprout it. So there's another biur. After the tzmicha, you have kotzer and me'amer, cutting the different plants and stuff, and dash, separating the kernels from the chaff.
That's winnowing.
What?
That's winnowing.
As winnowing. So this whole thing is a biur until the chita is ready to eat. You can wash and say amoti on it. The whole thing is just beer after beer after beer after beer. Even though the chita needs to be ground, and it needs lisha. It needs to be when you make it into a batter and you knead it, yeah. Vafia and baked, as it's brought down in the Sidura de Pat. Shen Gimel in the Biur Vatikun. Aval below Avarat Adama, without working the land, the 39 malachas, you can't get bread. But when Mashiach comes, the earth will spread forth the gluskaot, the kli melat, shu lechem lechol v'beged ilvosh. You're going to have full bread to eat that grows from the earth, and you're going to have clothes that grow from the earth without any tikkun or biur. Cloud at all. Ki yatzu min haaretz metukanin. They're going to be ready to use right when they come out of the earth. Ken kol tzarkan v'hainu lachar sha'aretz taval b'china tikkun. That's when the earth comes to the level of tikkun. She'en tzarech avodah klal v'klal. You don't need any avodah at all. But now you need to work the land. That's what time it is now? So we'll go a few more minutes. The source of all these things, the Adam is the Adama is the Bechina of Ma v'Ban. Okay, so what is it? We're going to explain this soon. ועכשיו מבאר מה לבן, והוא האדם גמטריה מה שבחוכמה יתבררו. אבל לעתיד יברו בחינת בן שהוא הארץ, על כן לא יצטרך לעבודת אדם כלל. It's in parentheses, but basically it's saying this. Man, which is Adam, is gematria 45, which is the sphere of Chokhmah. That has to come and fix the Ban. Ban is the Adama, which is the sphere of Malchus. But when Mashiach comes, the sphere of Malchus is going to be fixed, and then that is going to fix man. So therefore, you're not going to have to go and fix it anymore. It's going to give you full everything you need without doing anything. V'gam ba'achila tapat. So too with eating bread. Harei mitbarer mimeno hatov. When you eat bread, you're separating the good. ומתפלל בכל זה המאכל באב ובירה ומוסם נשו באחד נכלל ועולה גם כרדיצת הטוב הזה שבמאכל באחד. So you eat bread and then you use it to pray to Hashem with ava and yira, and you give over yourself to Hashem completely. So that spark that's in the bread, it goes and includes itself into the oneness of Hashem. ונמצא נברר ונפרד הטוב מן הרע שנפל בנוגה. And it's found that he is separating the good from the bad that fell in Noga, which is the Datzach Gashmim. So what does that mean? It means Domim Tzomech Chai. Okay, inanimate, vegetative, and living things, animals that are physical, those are the things you have to extract the sparks with. Al-Yidei Taruvet Etzadas Tovara. V'nitaken Chet Etzadas V'nitarev Tovara. And this is what Yaakov said. Im yeh Elokim imadi v'natani lechem lechol v'beged lilvosh. He said, if Hashem was with me and gave me food to eat, bread to eat, and clothes to wear, and that's the concept of the beer of the etzadas tovara in the meichel, in the food and on the clothes, because Yaakov represents Yud Ekev. Yud is the chokhmah, which is through chokhmah you'll refine. And that's the whole concept that a man needs to work the land. Because Adam is gematria ma, which is chokhmah. Okay, and now the main difference between good and bad is through chokhmah. Okay, that's how you. So the way to define what's good and what's bad is through chokhmah. You can't use your feelings for this thing. You can't use your past experiences. Chokhmah is the way to distinguish between good and bad. שכל מי שיש בו חוכמה יותר יכול להבחין ולברר כל שיג ופסולת. Whoever has more chokhmah is able to seek more and more clearly, more and more refined what's good and what's bad. Even in a physical sense, you're trying to make bread. If you have the chokhmahs at each step, your bread's going to come out much better than the guy who doesn't know what he's doing, obviously. על כן הסכימו רוב המקובלים הראשונים לדעת החייט שהחוכמה בחינת Din. So there's a whole discussion in Kabbalah. Where does Chokhmah fit in the whole picture of the Spheres? So there's an opinion that Chokhmah comes from Din, from judgment. V'agam she'chesed anaf mechokhmah. Even though Chesed is a branch of Chokhmah, ve'abba makor chasadim, and the Chokhmah is the source of all chasadim. Nonetheless, it has also an aspect of Din and Gvura davka. And that v'hu b'chinat hei gvura shebechesed, and that's the hei gvura that's inside of the chesed, which is the source of all the birurim. So chesed has an aspect to it that it has an aspect of din, so it could do a birur. Okay, now v'raya birur l'davar zeh. What's a clear proof of this thing? It says in the pasuk, "Ashrei hagavar asher tisreinu ka." Praiseworthy is the man in which God chastises. Okay, so what does that mean? Being chastised means the person's being given gvura. So it says praiseworthy the man who's getting gvura, getting a difficult time to him. So what does it mean? It says tasreinu ka, that Yud K is the one that's giving him the hard time. What does that mean? Yud K represents chokhmah and bina. Why? Mipnei shayisurim lemarek avon, the difficulties that come to a person to clean up his sin in order to fix his soul, comes through chokhmah specifically, as it says David to Shlomo in relation to Yoav ben Tzruya, vasita chokhmatecha v'lo turad sevato b'shalom Shaul. Okay, what does that mean? Also, another pasuk says Amarlo al tinkehu ki ish chachamata v'yadata et asher ta'aseh v'varta et sevato. So he basically said words that were harsh, and these words are going to metaken his soul. And this is only through chokhmah, from this thing that we just explained. Amar lo ki ish chacham mata, you are a wise man. And this is what it says: Asher agavar asher tisenu ka. That chokhmah, because in chokhmah you're going to refine, and it's the main part of the Torah, comes from chokhmah, in order to refine and to fix. As it says, to separate between the impure and between the pure, etc. That the Torah has the ability to do that. Even though in chokhmah will make the refining, nonetheless, automatically, you're not going to completely get rid of the bad. There has to exist in a way that is very, very thick. You can't fully refine it through chokhmah. Okay, why? So after you do the refining, there still remains a very thick part of the rock. So too, if a person goes through difficult things and that starts refining the person's soul and cleaning it out, it's impossible that all the bad will be completely gone. There has to be psolet and zuhama of the nachash that has to stay there, but you cannot refine fully through chokhmah. There's no takana with it. Okay, after you separate, like let's say you're trying to refine gold or silver, you take the bad parts out. What do you do with that bad part now that's remaining on the side? What do you do with it? You can't turn that into more silver. Got to throw it out. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay, and through this, the good and the clean will be separated in the blood. They're talking about a certain thing in refuah, in health. They take all the psal out. So even though when the psal left, it has some life force from the good, but you must throw it out. So too, la loke beit banot hav shehu esh gehenem shehu moshech psal Torah min avon. So he says like this. There's a pasuk that it describes like what a Gehenim is. Gehenim is basically the fire that's taking off the bad from the sins that a person did. And it says hav. What does that mean? V'zeu chalko v'go'alo achakach yipol v'yamot k'mo la'atid dichtiv et ruch tumavim la'aretz atid gosh baruch hu yishchot yetzer hara. It says in the future time Hashem will shech the yetzer hara. So it's the same thing. Is that and when the psolet is by itself, now there's nothing to do with it. You can't use it for good. You got to shecht it, and it's done. As it says, "Chayil bala yikeno v'otzeti et balo mipiv." Okay, we're on paragraph 10. We'll pause it here.